normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
Outrage as San Francisco boots vagrants off streets ahead of Xi Jinping visit, as California Governor Gavin Newsom admits woke city was only given polish to impress world leaders. Oh, we got the clip for you. I'm going to play it because it's hilarious. Here we go.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
That's what it takes, huh, Gavin?
But it's also true. For months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
All right, so here's what I want to say. Imagine having a roommate. There's pizza boxes everywhere. The dishes are all dirty. There's grime everywhere. And you go, dude, I'm paying rent too. Clean up your mess. And I'm like, I'll do it, man. Chill. And then one day the dude freaks out and is like, dude, my mom's coming over, and starts cleaning up. You'd be like, WTF, man.
You'd be so mad.
Like, I'm glad you're cleaning up. I'm glad you're cleaning up, but you should have cleaned this place up a long time ago. And this proves you could have done it. I guess the difference in the analogy is the argument is, oh, it's so hard to deal with. And how do we help these people? And then what do? They put a bunch of like horse troughs along the street to block tents.
Did they go in at 4:30 in the morning with fire hoses and hit them all? Because they've done that before.
They did that in Atlanta before the Olympics. Remember, they like cleared everybody.
There's video of it. You can
cleared
find
everybody out right before the Olympics.
Full on fire hosing people's tents and destroying.
Yeah, in New York, a lot of times they just give people a bus ticket and they're like, "Get the hell out of here."
What's up with that fire? That homeless encampment?
That in LA, that fire, that also like it was like a massive fire, and it also melted the freeway, and the freeway is now unusable.
Honestly, that's happened so many times. Remember during the pandemic, like I would literally be driving around LA, and there would be usually it'd be on the highway somewhere, or it would be a fire underneath an overpass. It's like a regular thing that I saw many times.
I was driving out of DC last week with my son, and he was in the car, and he was just like, whoa, what's with all these tents? Why are there all these people just sleeping out here in the street? And I was like, that's our nation's capital, hon.
I got Aaron's
That's what we got going on.
You made
with so many people.
Earlier you mentioned like we're all created equal. You were talking about equality and like being there for all of us. But how do you deal with this excess of humanity that lives off of the tit or just is like sick and they just live on the street? Like what's your proposition?
I don't refer to unhoused people as the excess of humanity. The people who are excess of humanity, the people who are destroying this earth, the warmongers, the people who are using populations as sacrificial lambs and killing them, like Israel's doing, like what's happening in Ukraine. But basically, I connect this to foreign policy. Instead of spending all this money on arming Israel and also arming Ukraine, why can't we build homes for people who need them?
Well, I like that. Hold on, that's not a solution.
Why not?
I used to work for a homeless nonprofit. The first question you have to ask is, why is a person homeless? And it's typically not because they're poor. There's other underlying factors that result in them.
That's what I mean by
poor.
the excess of humanity. People that are gone broken.
But right. So the issue is, if you take a homeless person and put them in a house falls apart, house burns down, electrical problems, plumbing problems, maintenance, taxes, property taxes. You can't just make a house and put somebody in it.
Okay, so give them services too, like fund social services.
To
now support people who need it.
And here's where I'll agree with you. I would love to apply a wealth tax, but only to the military-industrial complex corporations. I would love to strip the wealth and tax at 100% all the warmongers and take all of their money and literally, I would totally be okay with this, hand it out in cash to random homeless people.
But then they wouldn't be making profit.
I am saying I would rather a crazy homeless guy walking around just spitting, have $100,000 in cash stuffed in his pockets if it means the military-industrial complex is not funding and starting more needless nonsense wars and bloodshed.
We'd be way less in debt.
I'm bullish on the military-industrial complex these days.
Think about the economic boom of all the homeless people buying cheeseburgers and sub sandwiches. Subways would pop up everywhere.
So when I said excess of humanity, I just mean that I'm finding that some people have either gone totally psychotic due to drugs or like lack of connection with humanity, and they've just gone into wild feral mode. Like, what do we do? And they shit on the street. They don't want to get a job. They don't want to take a shower. They're looking for their next fix. They carry sharp blades on them. Like, what do we do about this?
Well, a lot of people would say also that those people who are, living rough, as you would say, or sleeping rough, that they should be allowed to do that they shouldn't have to be forced into society's way, right? Like, shouldn't there be a place where people who don't want to conform to society's standards can exist differently.
Okay, then what we do
It
is
probably shouldn't be on the city streets.
we go to Wyoming and we take like 400 acres, and then we
you're
say
just like here.
after a certain amount of time of you being unhoused in this area, you will be given a structure in the middle of Wyoming, and best of luck to you.
That would be an interesting, weird Kafka-esque scenario. That would lead to like some serious, Shirley Jackson style novels coming out of there.
Sounds like gulags.
Sounds pretty weird.
I didn't say they were forced to stay
No,
there. I'm
you
saying
don't
we
have to
give you a
stay there.
house. What
But,
do you
like,
mean?
here's a bus ticket.
Here is a structure for which you can live, but it's in Wyoming. You can leave whenever you want.
There's an interesting thing too, like in you probably saw this in Chicago over the weekend. Some people who were in Chicago, illegal immigrants from Venezuela, they were like, we don't like it here. It's cold and we can't get work.
They're going back.
Right. And they're like, we're going home. And in New York, they, Mayor Adams turned Floyd Bennett Field basically into a tent city. And so some people were moved out of their shelters and they went to this tent city in Floyd Bennett Field, and they got off the bus and they were like, we don't want to be out here. It's out like it's the old JFK airport, basically.
So let me ask you, Aaron, you said unhoused.
And they just want to go home.
What does that mean? Why do you say it that way?
That's the term now for homeless people.
But why?
That's the new politically correct term, Tim. Get with it.
No, but I'm
Unhoused
asking
neighbors.
because you use it.
I'm just doing what I'm told. That's the term, so you know.
Do you support
But
reopening,
as somebody who has done advocacy for the homeless, I think it's offensive.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think what the left has done is try to sweep the problem under the rug, exemplified by exactly what the Democratic supermajority of Los Angeles does every single time the issue comes up. Not in my backyard. They all stand up and they scream. Look at San Francisco. Look at the problems of homelessness. And then what happens? Xi Jinping's showing up. Shove it all under the rug. Every policy I've seen. Did you know that there are more empty houses than there are homeless people? And I'm like, what are you saying? You want to just take a homeless person and put him in a house? You're shoving the problem under the rug. You're saying we don't want these people to be seen in our streets. Stick them in a house somewhere. Well, now the naive might be like, no, we're giving them a house. Sure, but anybody who owns a house knows how difficult it is to maintain a house. Everybody knows. Well, not everybody agrees with property taxes, but property taxes exist for a reason, for supporting the roads and the community and the schools and things like this. The average homeless person is not homeless because they're like, I just lost my job and now I'm, in hard times. And if only I had an opportunity. Those people certainly exist. In what I encountered when it came to homeless people, having worked for various homeless nonprofits and advocacy nonprofits, is young people who choose to be homeless, but they want to be. There was a group in Seattle called the AVRATs, train hoppers, people who are in their late teens, early 20s, who are intentionally homeless, and you would never get them into a house. And then we encountered like 80% of the homeless people are mentally unwell to the point where if you put them in a house and did not have a worker who was maintaining that house and caring for them, the house would probably burn down.
Yep.
But burn down or flood. They'd turn the stove on maybe, or they'd turn the water on. We had an issue where this is scary stuff for homeowners. Water was left on and the drain wasn't going down. And then after like 30 minutes, all of the ceiling of the basement, or I shouldn't say all, but like 30% destroyed just because the drain wasn't going down properly and it poured over the sink. I'm like, that's crazy. So we've dealt with all of this. Like, we put a homeless guy in a house. He turned the bathtub on. It overflowed. The house got flooded, destroyed everything. The house is unlivable. If he stays there, he'll die. Well, we lost that house. What do we do?
It's really, the whole house thing. Like, I've lived in apartments the whole time and now I have a house. And recently, there's been like an issue here or there. And I'm like, damn it. I really wish I could call the super.
Wish there was a landlord
Wish I
who
could
would
call
run it
the
for you.
super in this building and be like, hey, this isn't working. You need to come up and fix this, blah, blah.
Anyway, my point is, it was always really frustrating for me when I'm like, wow, we've raised X amount of dollars to help the homeless. What are we doing? Mental health programs. The shelters are actually not houses. They're like beds in community centers. It is so hard to get them to come. Why? No freedom. Can't do drugs. You can't drink. And some of these guys just can't think properly. There was one guy I remember encountering who had a bottle of wine he was trying to open. It was corked and I don't even know what he was doing. And I was like, hey man, you all right? And he goes, abada baba. And I was like, there's nothing I can say to this man and I don't want to get into it because you know what happens? He might get agitated, he might get angry, and then we got a situation. So I'm out. I'm out.
There's definitely.
So what would you propose as a solution? I mean, you've worked with this community directly. So what would you support?
So any sheltering that we have to do, and this is the big challenge. The answer is always going to be a level of force, meaning If someone is a recurring homeless person living in an area, they are forcefully detained. They are taken from the area and said, you cannot live on the street. It is creating disease. We saw the emergence of typhus in California because of the expansion of the homeless population. It is a detriment to you. It is a detriment to us. And why do we stop people from doing certain drugs? Same argument. It's you're going to harm yourself and others. I'm actually in favor of most drugs being legal to varying degrees. So this is tough. And this is the serious and difficult position is, should the state arrest, and I don't mean like criminally arrest, I mean like restrict the movement of and forcefully detain a person who is persistently homeless. And if you want to solve the problem, that's what you have to do. What San Francisco does and many of these other places do is they'll load them up on buses and send them somewhere far away, and then just cross their fingers the problem doesn't come back. How did San Francisco deal with the homeless problem? Well, all I know is video 1 shows a bunch of tents. Video 2 shows a bunch of horse troughs full of water, blocking where the tents used to be, which likely indicates the government came by force, removed all the tents, kicked everybody out, destroyed everything, and then put up these horse troughs so Xi Jinping could come here in peace. I don't think that's good. All they're doing is saying F you to the homeless people. But if we made communal shelters where if you're persistently homeless, you will be brought, you can't leave, then we're talking about some kind of, it's going to require a due process system. It's going to require legislation. And unfortunately, either you remove these people forcefully and place them somewhere where they will be under better control, or you do what San Francisco did and just boot them out and then have them wander somewhere else.
Okay,
there's
here's my
something
proposal.
that you should have.
My proposal is this. Let's put all the effort that we put into warmongering, funding these proxy wars in Ukraine, funding Israel to bomb people of Gaza. Let's put all the money we put into that into a huge effort to give people shelter and give people the social services and support they need. Because as you say, a lot of people are dealing with serious mental illness issues, drug addiction, trauma. Let's try to address that first. And if that doesn't work, if after like we actually do like a war-like effort, like a huge effort, if that doesn't work, then okay. I think you have an argument for using some coercion.
I completely disagree. Because you don't go far enough. The warmongers should also be put up on stage and everyone gets to point and laugh at them as their wealth is taken from them.
What about
and then every
stocks? Remember like the stocks in the Puritan New England? I think that there are definitely some things that should be done in order to prevent homelessness, even as difficult as it is to solve homelessness. Like there should be housing for kids that age out of foster care. Like you should get somewhere to live. If you're 18 and you're no longer in the foster care system, look. Like those people, like if you come out of foster care, you're 18, you're not going to college, you have no money, you have no resources.
The real solution.
The city should help you get a house, like somewhere to live.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.